Welcome back, everyone. If you're a focused learner ready to decode the future, you are definitely in the right place. We're exploring something today that is quite literally shifting the digital ground right under our feet. I mean, we are talking about the single most massive overhaul to ChatGPT since it first exploded onto the scene back in late 2022. If you've just been casually using AI to, say, draft a quick email or brainstorm a few ideas, you probably think you know exactly what ChatGPT is. But, well, the source material we're unpacking in today's explainer reveals something wild. OpenAI's goal is no longer just about answering your questions. Nope, their new objective is to turn ChatGPT into the foundational invisible AI layer for your entire digital life. And honestly, the way they're pulling this off is just fascinating.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this quote right here completely sets the stage for everything we're going to cover today. The era of using AI just for chatting is over. Just think about that for a second. That is a staggeringly bold statement coming from a senior employee at the very company that made AI chatbots a massive mainstream thing in the first place. What our sources are telling us is that OpenAI is actively transitioning ChatGPT from a simple, question and answer box into a full-blown digital super app. We're talking about a unified beast of a platform that seamlessly combines coding tools, image generation, third-party apps, workplace automation, and heavy-duty enterprise services all into one single interface.
So that brings us right into Section 1, the end of chatting. To really wrap our heads around this micro-level shift, we have to look at Tibble Satio. He's the executive leading this whole overhaul, and his vision completely flips the dynamic. In the old era, which, let's be real, is basically how most of us use AI today, the dynamic is simply, answer my question. You open up a chatbot, you meticulously type out your prompt, you get an answer, and then, well, you still have to go do the actual work yourself, right? You're copying, pasting, formatting, sending. But the new era, it's fundamentally different. The dynamic completely shifts to handle this task. You just give the agent an overarching goal, and the AI itself figures out exactly which tools to use. It sets up the workflows, executes the necessary steps, and literally finishes the job for you. You're no longer the operator typing away. You are the manager delegating to an autonomous digital worker. Let's actually break down exactly how this translates to a normal everyday routine, drawing from practical examples that OpenAI is discussing internally. Imagine just connecting your calendar and your email directly to this new agent. Instead of you logging in, groggily sipping your coffee and trying to figure out your day, think about this. You just set a workflow once. Every single morning, right at 8 a.m., the agent automatically checks your day's meetings. It silently scans your inbox for context and then proactively pushes the most urgent tasks and meeting backgrounds right to your screen. Or, hey, you could just dictate a quick voice request and the agent drafts the message, hunts down the right recipient over on Slack, preps the necessary documents, and literally just waits for you to say, yep, send it. It is 100% complete task delegation.
Moving on to Section 2, Codex, the secret engine.
So what's the secret engine actually powering this massive autonomous overhaul? It's Codex. Originally, Codex was this highly specialized programming tool, but now it's evolving into a general computer agent. And just look at how ridiculously fast it's being adopted. 5 million. That is the number of weekly active users Codex completely blew past at the end of May. It has grown incredibly fast. We're talking a 6-fold increase in less than 2 months. So why the sudden explosion? Well, OpenAI recently launched a dedicated Codex desktop app, which gave it a familiar, friendly graphical interface instead of a super intimidating text terminal. You combine that with the release of the new GPT 5.5 model, which is vastly superior at handling long-term, multi-step tasks, and suddenly you have an agent that users actually trust to do the work. In fact, engineers at companies like Notion were reporting that Codex was just silently fixing bugs in their background workflows entirely on its own. That level of absolute reliability, that's exactly what's driving this massive 5 million number.
But here is the true genius of OpenAI's new strategy. They are pushing Codex way beyond just software engineers. They want this autonomous capability in the hands of people who would never ever call themselves developers. Reportedly, they've launched expanded Codex plugins that specifically target everyday business roles. We're talking about plugins tailored for creative production, sales management, and get this, even public stock investment. By doing this, Codex isn't just sitting there writing code anymore. It's actively executing complex office work, handling business tasks, and running personal productivity workflows for regular everyday users. It's a total game changer.
Next up, Section 3, the billion-user money problem.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that none of this massive product pivoting is happening in a vacuum.
OpenAI is under some truly unprecedented financial pressure to prove they can actually generate sustainable, long-term revenue. Look at this breakdown. Out of roughly 1 billion ChatGPT users, an estimated 998 million, so the vast majority of people, are consumer-level users who are just using the platform entirely for free. On the flip side, you have just 2 million enterprise businesses that are actually opening their wallets and paying for commercial services. Culturally speaking, having nearly 1 billion users, that's an absolute triumph. But financially, it is a massive, glaring monetization problem. You simply cannot fund the multi-billion-dollar race to superintelligence purely on free-tier usage. It just doesn't work.
And when you look at the financials side by side, you see exactly why enterprise clients are the absolute focus right now. OpenAI's annualized revenue has reportedly pushed past a towering $30 billion. Compare that with their fiercest rival, Anthropic, whose revenue has surged to a very respectable $4.7 billion. Now, while OpenAI is vastly larger, those 2 million enterprise clients we just talked about, they currently make up about 40% of OpenAI's total revenue, and their stated corporate goal is that they need that share to rise to 50% by the end of this year. Because, let's face it, selling casual chat features to regular everyday people is incredibly hard, but selling autonomous coding and productivity agents that literally save companies thousands of hours of expensive labor, that's much easier. This intense, burning financial pressure to secure that enterprise revenue resulted in a completely ruthless internal restructuring at OpenAI this past May. Management made their values incredibly clear. They took the ChatGPT, Codex, and API teams and merged them all into one unified core product department. They highly prioritized a dedicated Codex R&D team. But to make that happen, they had to cut the fat. Consumer-facing tools, they became casualties. That highly anticipated ChatGPT shopping checkout feature, paused. Sora, the absolutely mind-blowing video generation product that took the entire internet by storm less than a year earlier, reportedly shut down. The overall strategy here is crystal clear. They are moving every possible resource toward enterprise tools and coding agents that massive companies will actually pay top dollar for.
Which leads us right into Section 4, the Anthropic arms race. You see, OpenAI's major pivot wasn't just about money. It was largely a defensive maneuver against their biggest rival, Anthropic, as they violently battle over who gets to build the foundational agent layer of the internet. Let's walk through this timeline to see how this rivalry literally forced OpenAI's hand. Back in autumn of 2024, internal benchmarks suggested a pretty shocking development. Anthropic's models had actually moved ahead of OpenAI in raw programming ability. For OpenAI, losing the lead in coding is basically an existential crisis, right? Because coding is exactly how you speed up all your other AI research and infrastructure. Then, in February 2025, Anthropic twisted the knife by releasing the preview of Claude Code, proving publicly they had overtaken OpenAI in this hypercritical category. As former OpenAI researcher Jenny Shan noted, the paths of these two companies totally converged. This direct, looming threat is exactly what triggered OpenAI's massive January and May internal restructurings so they could fight back.
But this arms race isn't just about software. No, it is a fierce, highly personal war for top-tier human talent. Look no further than Clive Chan. Chan was literally employee number 002 on OpenAI's highly secretive self-developed chip project. He spent 2 years helping build one of the absolute strongest chip design teams in the world. But then, on June 7th, he casually announced his defection to Anthropic, stating simply, "It's time to build." I mean, the internet went totally wild over this. People were comparing his exit to a star player leaving Real Madrid for Barcelona. It perfectly humanizes just how intense and hyper-competitive this tech landscape has become, especially as Anthropic's valuation nears the $1 trillion mark.
To really understand the gravity of Chan's defection, you have to look at the physical infrastructure stakes he just walked away from. When pressed about his departure, Chan actually pointed right to this timeline. Back in October 2025, OpenAI and Broadcom announced a colossal partnership to build a 10-gigawatt AI accelerator system. Guys, 10 gigawatts is a staggering, massive amount of power. To put that in perspective, it's enough to power millions of homes. The first physical accelerator racks from this project are expected to hit in the second half of 2026, with full data center deployment running all the way until the end of 2029. This is the multi-year, multi-billion-dollar hardware scale required to run these autonomous agents globally. And the fact that top-tier talent is jumping ship right as the metal is being bolted together, that just shows you how incredibly volatile this race truly is.
And finally, Section 5, the Security Reality Check. Grounding all these lofty AGI ambitions requires us to take a hard look at the massive cybersecurity implications. The absolute biggest nightmare for these new autonomous systems is something called a prompt injection attack. So, here's the basic definition. It happens when malicious instructions are secretly hidden inside external content, like a random web page the AI is asked to read, or even a seemingly harmless-looking PDF document. Because your agent is completely autonomous and has direct access to your tools, if it reads that hidden instruction, it can literally be tricked into leaking your sensitive enterprise data, sending unauthorized messages on your behalf, or just behaving in ways you never ever intended. It's essentially hacking the AI using everyday human language. Crazy, right?
So the crucial point is, OpenAI knows this is a massive, massive roadblock for enterprise adoption. Giant companies are absolutely not going to pay for an agent that might accidentally leak their proprietary data. So to combat this, OpenAI has introduced what they call lockdown mode for highly sensitive work. When you activate it, it completely disables web browsing, stops all image displays, blocks those deep research functions, disables networking, and straight up prevents file downloads. It essentially strips the autonomous agent of all its superpowers. It intentionally limits its access to the outside world, strictly to protect corporate clients from disastrous data exfiltration risks.
Which brings us to the ultimate paradox of this incredible technological leap. OpenAI is furiously building a future where the interface itself just disappears. A world where an omnipresent agent powered by Codex seamlessly manages your schedule, writes your code, and runs all your business workflows quietly in the background. But as they lock down these systems to keep them safe, it leaves us with a really profound question to consider. When the interface disappears and the AI is silently running your digital life, who is really in control? You, the autonomous agent, or the mega corporation that built it? It's a fascinating, almost scary trade-off between massive daily convenience and our unprecedented reliance on AI. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next one.